Hi, my name's Eric. Welcome back to my channel. Let's talk again about Tori Amos. Today, as you requested, I'm going to react to her 1994 album Under the Pink and break down the album's lyrics. Before I dive in, let me know in the comments down below what Tori Amos album I should react to next. I think most of you have been saying that I should continue moving chronologically, but I'm open to ideas. Check the description box for a link to a list of nonprofits you can donate to. Please subscribe to be here when I post new videos every week, and hit the bell icon to be notified when my videos go live. Without further ado, track number 1 is Pretty Good Year.
Tears on the sleeve of a man. Don't wanna be a boy today. I heard the eternal footman bought himself a bike to race. Greg writes letters and burns his CDs. Hold on to nothing as fast as you can. Still pretty good, yeah.
There is so much emotion in the way that she composes music.
Maybe a bright Sunday beach is gonna bring you back. Well, let me tell you something about some things are melting now.
Tying back to winter. Wow. Amazing.
Pretty good, yeah. Pretty good, yeah.
Wow. So that track generally was a bit more on the lyrically sparse side compared to a lot of the songs on Little Earthquakes, but this is just the opener, so she's just setting the groundwork. Tori opens the song talking about this man who has been crying and who doesn't want to feel like a boy. So he wants to be this big tough guy, right? He thinks that emotions are emasculating and juvenile. And then she says, I heard the eternal footman bought himself a bike to race. A footman can be a soldier or a servant, so to me, an eternal footman is like an embodiment of time or of the divine. So if he's racing, then this is about time pushing forward, this race towards the future, maybe towards adulthood. And then on the pre-chorus, she had this character, Greg, who sounds like he listens to Tori's music. He burns her CDs, and her music was formative to him. And what it sounds like he's learned from her is hold on to nothing as fast as you can. And this to me feels like it's again about time. Everything around Greg is moving and rushing, and he has nothing to hold on to slow it down. And then on the bridge, she seems to connect this back to her song Winter when she says, some things are melting now. Winter was about growing up and preparing for these big life changes, and this feels like the next step, moving into adulthood and feeling like things are slipping away, melting, being destroyed. So we start out the album with Tori's newfound role model status, and of course this struggle with time. We'll see how this continues to play out on track number 2, God.
God, sometimes you just don't come through. You need a woman to look after you. God, sometimes you just don't come through. Gotta find sign what you're doing about things. Feel which is burning gets a little toasty. Where you always go when the wind blows. God, sometimes you just don't come through. Oh, hey, you gone south, well, babe, you love your new boy. Hey, what do you know? There's not a fine sign. God, sometimes you just don't come through.
Wow, so The song sort of, in terms of vibe, very much felt like a 90s alt-rock song, except, of course, Tori's structuring of the song was so original with these sort of modulations in the energy level and the tone. But the slinkiness made it feel very grounded and very much like she was talking to a person as opposed to God. And broadly, of course, the song is just generally about Tori's suspicion of religion, and it takes on a couple of different dimensions. First, of course, is the gender dimension. Tori has been exposed to a masculinized vision of God, and so, of course, if God is anything like the men on Earth, then maybe he needs a counterpart. Maybe God's masculinity needs to be balanced out by femininity. And the second dimension is this idea of unanswered prayers. She's saying, do you see what's going on down here on Earth? Like, where have you been? Very much a 2020 mood. So on the chorus, she says, God, sometimes you just don't come through. Do you need a woman to look after you? It feels like one of the implications here, beyond just generalized suspicion, is that masculinity is very much a human trait. So attributing it to God feels very terrestrial. It brings God down. Because if we can attribute this firm, strong, authoritative vision of masculinity to God, then we can just as easily envision him as a helpless husband who needs women to keep things in order for him. And Tori suggests that the masculinization of the divine has material effects on us earthlings. Like on the first verse when she says, hey God, you do know that they're burning witches down here, right? One of the themes on Little Earthquakes was the subjugation of women, and treating powerful and defiant women as unholy and worthy of persecution, as in witch burning, is an example of that. So Tori says, okay, I get it. You go where the wind blows. You're on vacation. Here, I've got your golf club in the car. You can go to the country club. I'll take it from here. Track number 3 is Bells for Her. I like that you can hear like the clicks of these keys or bells.
Undo the light force and there goes her friend. On her nashiki, it's out of time. Can't stop what's coming, can't stop what is on its way. I've got your mind, I said, she said, I've your voice. I said, you don't need my voice, girl, you have your own. So they went years and here, like sisters blanket. Can't stop what's coming, can't stop what is on its way.
The inevitability of time.
Now she seems to be sand under his shoe.
Again, repression.
I see it coming, and it's on its
Just amazing. What's really interesting about that song is that melodically it sort of reminds me of a song like Precious Things, which had very dynamic, dramatic production, but this was very sparse. It was just her voice and these bells, and it was so eerie and so powerful and captivating. And I just love the lyrics. She opens the song saying, and through the life force, and there goes her friend on her nishiki, it's out of time. This ties back to the opener because nishiki is a brand of bicycles, so once again, time is riding its bike and changing her life. And here, the way that time, of course, has changed her life is that it has taken away her friend. I know this is so typical of me, but I wanted to just mention her use of the word and to open the song, because and implies that there has been some action already happening. We begin in media res. And that's disorienting, just like being powerless to time. She also ties back to the mention of a footman on the opener when she talks about bells and footfalls and soldiers and dolls. This is a lifelong friendship, and they've gone through these phases and these internal battles together. But for whom does the bell toll? It tolls for thee. She's dead. Probably metaphorically. These battles have overtaken her, or really their friendship. Track number 4 is Past the Mission.
I don't believe I went too far. She said she knew what my book didn't know. I thought she knew what's up. Past the mission, behind the prison door. Past the mission, I smell the rose
love these changes that go on in her songs.
They found a body, not sure it was his. Still, they're using his name, and she gave some things only she knows.
Oh, it's still going.
Past the mission, behind the prison door. Past the mission, we're closing every hour. Past the mission, I smell the roses.
Wow. Suddenly, the image of smelling roses feels so pernicious. And I also was not expecting a ska-leaning song. That was very interesting, but those tonal shifts, again, worked so well to create this uncomfortable dissonance between these two perspectives that were going on. Because to me, it really feels like the song goes back to Me and a Gun from Little Earthquakes, except with the victim-aggressor roles reversed. This sounds like it's from the point of view of a man who feels entitled to women. Tori says things like, I once knew a hot girl, and I smell the roses. The roses bring to mind the use of flowers to represent women's sexuality and the idea of deflowering, and really the idea of being sniffed out feels like a predator seeking out prey. And that's why that voice opens the song saying, I don't believe I went too far. Predatory behavior just feels normal to a predator. So this basically recounts Me and a Gun from the opposite perspective, except on the bridge we get some more information about this story. She says, they found a body, not sure it was his, still they're using his name. Just like this assailant attacked her body, now his body has been mangled beyond recognition, so basically this is a revenge fantasy. Track number 5 is Baker Baker.
Baker, baker, baking a cake. Make me a day, make me whole again. I guess he's gone to LA. He says that behind my eyes I'm hiding here. There must be something here. There must be something here. Can you explain if truly his heart was made of icing? I know you're late for your next parade. You came to make sure that I'm not running time. Thought I made friends with time. If you see him, say hi.
So much of this album feels more on the sparse side compared to Little Earthquakes, not just lyrically. I mean, there is a lot of lyrical density still and a lot of images, but the sound also is a little bit less overwhelming. We don't have as many walls of sound, not as much percussion. It's a lot of piano and strings and voice. And sort of in an expansion on the way that Tori has talked about her friendships, now Tori is reflecting on a past relationship and sort of interrogating her role in how it ended. And basically she comes up with this almost karmic theory where there's this sort of symmetry between the two partners. Tori was emotionally unavailable, so now her ex has made himself physically unavailable to her by leaving forever. This feels like a similar worldview to the last song where the harm that the predator did to her body was mirrored by the harm to his body when he died. This also brings to mind the lyrics to God, where Tori said if God is a man, then he needs a woman to balance him out. So there's this motif of equals and opposites and symmetries that specifically relates to these binary gender norms. So I'm interested to hear how Tori expands on this idea on track number 6, The Wrong Band.
I think it's perfectly clear we're in the wrong band. Ginger is always sincere, just not the one man. And she said, you know that I'm drowning. I think it's perfectly clear we're in the wrong band. Senator, let's be sincere as much as you can. He called her up and he said, the new prosecutor soon will be wanting a word. So they had something believing in her voice, something believing in instead of just leaving. She gets her sickles from the sweet fat man. Heidi says she'll be sincere as much as she can. Put on your raincoat again, 'cause even the sun's got a price on it. She said it's time I open my eyes. Don't be afraid to open your eyes. Maybe she's right, maybe she's right, maybe she's right, maybe she's right.
So much personality, definitely more upbeat and kind of wonky, but that was really fun. And so this song expands on these gender norms and power dynamics by setting up a very specific type of symmetry, or rather asymmetry. We have this essentially powerless woman dealing with a powerful man, a senator. And she's been seeing multiple men, and she tells Tori on the first verse that she's drowning. To me, this brings to mind Lana Del Rey's song Carmen, with the possible implication being that Ginger, this character, is a sex worker. And so Tori says that the senator character called up Ginger and said, the new prosecutor soon will be wanting a word. She's gotten tangled up with this man in power, and now he's leveraging that power against her. And of course, it's easy to do so because of the difference in their status. He's a wealthy man in politics, and she is probably a less well-off woman in sex work. On the chorus, Tori says, she gets her cigars from the sweet fat man. On the song Leather from Little Earthquakes, Tori talked about this angel with a nice big fat cigar, and the context was that she was talking about being alone and powerless, so we have that same thing going on here. The song in general then is about how women are put in a position where their gender and sexuality makes them vulnerable to men. But we also have Tori and these characters Heidi and Ginger supporting each other, so we have this sort of incipient sense of community among women that maybe Tori will develop further on track number 7, The Waitress. Okay.
So I want to kill this waitress. If I did it fast, you know that's an act of kindness. But I believe in these. I believe in these, bitch. I want to kill this waitress. I can't believe it. Violence in mind. I want to kill this killing witch. There are too many stars and not enough sky. Waitress.
Wow. I love the sense of humor on that song, even though it was pretty serious and dark and there's some themes underlying the song. It's kind of really funny. Right off the bat, a waitress to me thematically can be another image of these gender norms that Tori has been unpacking. I'm not saying that being a waitress is oppressive or anything like that, but just on a very literal level, a waitress is a woman in a position of service or of subservience. So Tori is the co-worker of this waitress who is 1 year her senior, and they are competing with each other, and Tori wants her dead. And this to me feels like the opposite of the relationship between the women on the last song. There, they had all been wronged by powerful men, so they banded together, but here, they've been set up to compete with each other, so that camaraderie is gone. And with the context set up by the wrong band, maybe we can infer that this structure was imposed on them by powerful men. It's like on Taylor Swift's song Mad Woman when she says, women like hunting witches too. This social structure rewards holding other women down. She says there is not enough room in the sky for these stars, so she has to fight this impulse that she's been taught. Track number 8 is Cornflake Girl. What a banger. She opens the song saying that she's never been a cornflake girl, she's a raisin girl, which to me is just such a funny but I guess also effective metaphor because it's not really an important distinction. Like if you eat Raisin Bran or something like that, the cornflakes are mixed with the raisins. They're part of the same cereal. So she's effectively saying, I'm not like the other girls, when really they're all part of the same girl cereal. And it sounds like her friend, maybe the same friend as on Bells for Her, has gone and joined the Cornflake Girls. And Tori resents this. She calls it cheap. She says that they need an encyclopedia, maybe implying that they're unintelligent. So this sort of feels like a typical 90s, like, there are superficial pretty girls, and then there are the smart girls. Which one do you want to be? But Tori reminds us, never been a cornflake girl, thought it was a good solution. I think she's calling this into question, like, what is this a solution to? Did considering myself not like the other girls actually do anything for me? And then on that awesome bridge, she talks about the man with the golden gun who thinks he knows so much. The man with the golden gun, of course, is a villain from a James Bond movie. He's like a killer. So it sounds like Tori is suggesting, like, I've been worried about being brought down by these other girls my whole life, but really the whole time there's been this assassin behind me. All this time I've been worrying about conventional femininity when maybe I should be worrying about masculinity. Track number 9 is Icicle.
Icicle, icicle, where are you going? Where are you going? I have a hiding place when spring marches in. Will you keep watch for me? I hear them calling. Gonna lay down. Gonna lay down. I think the good book is missing some pages. And when they say take of his body, I think I'll take from mine instead. Lay your book on my chest. Feel the word, feel the word, feel the word, feel the word. I could have, I should have, I could have flown over. Gonna lay down.
Amazing, as usual. There's something interesting going on here with the time signature again. If you know what it is, please let me know. The song feels in some ways like a sequel to Winter because first, of course, it's about winter weather, but second, it mentions her father and her adolescence. Here, this icicle is melting as spring marches in, which again recalls the military language of time from the opener. She mentions that the good book is missing some pages, and then she says, when they say take of his body, I think I'll take from mine instead. Once again, her experience with religion is phallocentric. She's saying, wait, where's the part about me? I mean, we have like these sanctified virginal figures, and maybe that relates to the impulse to sniff out women who still have their flower, like on Past the Mission. This also might explain why the events of Past the Mission take place around a mission where people are proselytized and around a prison where people are confined. If religion is taught in a repressive way, then expressing desire manifests either as dysfunctional or as sacrilegious. Track number 10 is Cloud on My Tongue.
Someone's knocking on my kitchen door. All the girls here are freezing cold. Leave me with your body. I don't need much to keep me warm. Don't stop now. What you doing? What you doing, my ugly one? Bring them all here. 100 girls in your hair. It won't be fair if I hate her. If I hate her, won't be wearing your tattoos. You're already in there. Kiss the violets as they're waking up. Leave me with your bonnet. I'm already in circles and circles and circles. Can't
The piano and strings together are just so beautiful. So this song continues from Icicle with Tori again using cold as an image of innocence and warm as an image of experience, specifically romantically. On the first verse she said, "All the girls here are freezing cold, leave me with your Borneo. All these other girls are like the young woman on Icicle, inexperienced and lonely. But I can make my own heat of passion, I'm like Borneo, I've got my own tropical climate." On the pre-chorus she speaks to her ugly one, which okay, and says, "How do you hide 100 girls in your hair? It won't be fair if I hate her, if I ate her." To me, this is her saying, you've had relationships with all of these women, and just like on The Waitress, I have to fight the urge to feel like they're my competition. So she says on the chorus, "I'll be wearing your tattoos. They're so close, it's like they're sharing skin." This, along with the circles and circles, brings to mind the recycled jeans from Silent All These Years. But instead of sharing a label with another woman, she's sharing it with her partner. She's not interchangeable with them, but equal to him. Track number 11 is Space Dog.
Wake up, Mr. Microphone. Show us all what you don't know. Centuries, secret society. He is our commander still. Space still. Social, we were on something.
This sounds like music from like a 90s action movie.
This cannot dirty fishy dish. Cloth he'll distract you. She can't understand. She truly believes the lie. Lemon pie. He's coming through. I'll command us still. Space still. Dig the holes. I'm young again. I'm you again. Racing turtles. The grapefruit is winning. You freeze. Finally on the bounty side. You feel just on the ground.
So odd, so much fun. The song's lyrics, of course, are random and funny and cryptic, but the general impression I get is, again, of suspicion of masculine authority. We have these great men leading us to the moon, and who are they? Space Dog, Colonel Dirty Fishy Dishcloth, and a lemon pie. She's saying, it's ridiculous, we just take this authority for granted. When she says, "Show us all what you don't know, centuries, secret societies," it brings to mind the senator from The Wrong Band. Not only are some men in power evil, they're also as incompetent as a dog. And that's why she says on the second verse that the colonel will distract her good. These authority figures are a smokescreen. Just pretend like this is normal and they'll take you seriously. No need to acknowledge that I'm actually 3 raccoons in a trench coat and I have the nuclear codes. It's fine. The final track, track number 12, is Yes, Anastasia.
I know what you want. The magpies have come. If you know me so well, then tell me which end I use.
Ooh.
Southern restaurant, puppy, don't go. Show me the things I've been missing. Show me the ways I forgot to be speaking. Well, we can't have that forgetting the counting the tears of 10,000 men and gather them all, but my feet are slipping. This
And that is how the album ends. Just outstanding. This song is about the real-life Anastasia Romanoff, who you might have heard of if you've seen the movie Anastasia, but spoiler alert, in real life, the movie doesn't show this, I think, she was killed at the age of 17. So when Tori says on the chorus to be brave and to run and all your dollies have friends, to me this is like wishing that Anastasia could have escaped her fate. She was a young girl killed because of who her family was. The world was in that way set up against her. So just like the relationships that Tori talked about on The Wrong Band, this is her imagining companionship with her, and specifically a friendship that saves Anastasia's life. Tori also ties this back to The Wrong Band when, after the Anastasia character dies, she talks about the things you find in the rain. On The Wrong Band, the rain was like the pressures of a patriarchal world, and here, the rain coincides with Anastasia's death. So the implication seems to be that Anastasia is the representative woman killed, metaphorically or literally, by forces out of her control. But maybe she could have been saved by the type of camaraderie that we saw on The Wrong Band. So it feels like, sort of, I guess in an optimistic way, that Tori is leaving us with a message of uplifting women, saying that that can save lives. Overall, this album was fantastic. I loved it so much. Thank you so much for suggesting that I listen to it. As far as standout tracks go, right now I am drawn to Bells for Her, Cornflake Girl, and The Waitress. As a progression from Little Earthquakes, it feels like Tori is a little bit less concerned maybe with catchiness and more with really just honing in on her instincts. She really favors a sort of spacious, almost crystalline sort of production where it's piano, voice, and sometimes strings. And her lyrics are even more eccentric. This definitely sort of feels like her midpoint between like Kate Bush and Fiona Apple, but it was still singular and so wonderful. So once again, thank you so much for recommending that I listen to this album. And as usual, let me know in the comments down below what other albums you'd like to see me react to and what other topics you'd like to see me cover on my channel. Check the description for that donation link. Please subscribe to be here when I post new videos every week. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you are staying safe and healthy, and until next time, that's it.